Yo people, hope you're all doing well and welcome to another video. With patch 7.05 just a couple of days away now, I thought I'd give a quick update and show my current inventory and items that I've been stockpiling in preparation. In my previous video around how to prep for 7.05, I spoke about key methods and gave some important information on how to prepare and things to do, and also briefly mentioned some of the items that I've been focusing on. However, in this video, I'll go through and show everything I have at the moment. I'll give an explanation as to why I've been stockpiling these items, and I'll also show what the current market board price is so that we can use it as a reference for after patch day, which is when I'll begin to use and also sell some of the materials. Do bear in mind that the majority of the things that I've stockpiled have come primarily through actually obtaining the items myself, both through gathering and also crafting, but I will note the things that I've purchased from the market board or from friends. So firstly, let's quickly go over the Aethersands. I've been gathering these through the special nodes that you can access with Botanist and Miner. The main ones I've been focusing on are the Sun Gilt Aethersand, the Myth Loam Aethersand, and also the Myth Root Aethersand. There is also the Myth Brine Aethersands, however I haven't been farming these as I still don't have my fisher level to 100, and also because, to be honest, I don't really enjoy spearfishing. You can still purchase these with orange scripts, and if they are heavily required for 7.05, then I'll just take the hit and purchase them as and when required. The Aethersands I have been farming are from the nodes Volcanic Grass, Electrocoal, Brightwind Ore, and also the Gold Branch, all which you can gather at specific times and use ethereal reduction to extract the Aethersands from them. My guess is that the Sun Gilt Aethersands will be required for the new grade 2 gem drop potions that we will see, as if you look back at Endwalker, the Moonlight Aethersands were used for the first set of max level combat potions on Endwalker release, and then also for the first master book recipe potions. So if we use the same logic, if they do the same thing, then Sun Gilt Aethersands should be the ones that they use for the grade 2 gem draws. The other Aethersands that I mentioned will also be used for the combat gear, so it's still a good idea to stock up on these two. Whether you feel like it's too late and you want to purchase them now with Gil is entirely up to you. Personally, I'll just gather as many as you can, as I think that these prices will be quite volatile during the first couple of days of 7.05. So moving on to the craftable items, as we know, new master recipe books will be released in the new patch, and so in preparation I've been crafting a lot of the level 96 and 98 materials for each of the crafting jobs. At the moment, these are all the materials that I have, which have all been crafted myself, and I do intend to get quite a bit more over the next few days. Reasoning for these items is that looking back at previous expansions, the first master recipe book recipes required a lot of the mid to late level pre-crafted materials. Going by the same logic, we can be confident that these materials will be required to craft the new combat gear coming in 7.05. The reason I have a mix between high quality and normal quality is because I was doing a lot of quick synthesis in order to speed farm some crafting material just to sell early on in Dawntrail release. Materia back then was selling for over 200k each, and it was really just a quick method to make some gil. As you can see, I also made a lot of high quality versions, as we know for a fact that a minimum of at least one high quality material will be required in order to be able to get the max quality rating when crafting a new gear. This has always been the case, and I really don't think Square Enix will make it super easy to craft a gear with no high quality materials required. This means that when the patch drops, we can both use and also sell these materials as we see fit. The key to making gil in the first couple of days of the new patch is to sell when the prices are super high, but also to hold on materials that you think are oversupplied and wait until the supply dries out so that the prices will rise. Moving on to foods and potions, so I've made a huge stack of crafting potions, crafting food, and also gathering food. The reason I've made so many of the craftsman tisane is because if you saw my last video, I mentioned that I had purchased over 2,000 peppermints for under 50 gil on day 1 of Dawntrail. So I took advantage of leveling my alchemist early and seeing what the CP potions would require, and saw that peppermints were being used, and so I pretty much just went on every server and purchased multiple stacks under 50 gil, as I knew that these would end up skyrocketing due to being a time node. The reason they were so cheap were because, frankly, before Dawntrail released, they were not being used for anything in demand. Also, being a timed node means that these only pop up during certain hours of an Eorzean day, and so you can't just overfarm them. To cut a long story short, it just means that these will be high in demand and low supply, hence why if you check the price of them now, they are sitting at over 3k each, which is pretty insane gathering for a node that came out 2 expansions ago. As these peppermints were needed for the tisanes, I sold quite a lot of them and then also used quite a lot of them for the tisanes to further diverse my investment for later. The nasi gorengs are the food that I've been using for gathering and what I've built my melds around. So I've made a huge stack of these to use for myself for 7.05 and also to sell on day 1. I've used the same insight for the Renique steaks in I will be building my melds around these when patch drops. I will be using and also selling them on day 1. Both of these foods along with the tisanes should skyrocket in price, and if they don't, as I mentioned before, I will be holding them until the supply starts to slow down and then start listing mine later. Bear in mind, I'm not the only one that's going to be stacking these. There are going to be a lot of other crafters that are doing the same. So as I'm not in a huge rush to sell them, I will be waiting and just seeing if the prices go up. If they do, I will sell. If they don't, I will hold and wait until the supply slows down, as I know that food and potions are always going to be required during 7.05, especially for crafting. So as the supply starts to slow down, the demand will still be there, and that's when you can enter the market. Now, moving on to the items that are gatherable, I've pretty much just stuck the rare nodes for both botanist and miner on a timer, and I've just been doing small sessions of gathering where I can. If you didn't already know how to get access to these nodes, you will need to unlock folklore books, which you can purchase with purple scripts from your collectible vendor. I have a small section in my last video explaining the best method for purple script farming if you wish to check that out. The reason I have mostly just been farming these is because at the moment they cannot be crafted into anything. However, when patch 7.05 drops, the master recipe books will unlock recipes for items that will use these materials. For example, we should see an iron lumber and also a fine silver ingot. These are just examples, but we will see a lot more. Farming these now will save a huge amount of time, and on release day we all know that these should skyrocket in demand with crafters just bulk buying these to craft the new combat gear for day 1 raiders. I have also included some old materials in here, including peppermint and lemonettes. I think if peppermints are anything to go by, then we may also see lemonettes being used in some of the new recipes. This is more of a minimal risk I'm taking, as I'm just really guessing here, but I've stacked up on these through gathering them anyway, so I haven't wasted any gil on them. If they are used in a recipe, then just watch how these will also skyrocket, just as the peppermints have. So crystals and clusters are 2 things that I stockpiled since before Dawntrail released, and so it wouldn't really be fair to include these as the price has already significantly increased for every crystal and every cluster that I've purchased. I did max out my retainers for all fire crystals, water crystals, wind crystals, and all versions of the clusters, and I do expect these to go up in price further. For these, I would say it's definitely a good idea to stock up on them whilst you can. Lastly, for Materia, this is one that I've been stacking on both my gatherers and my crafters, mostly through spirit bonding for the grade 11s and the grade 12s. But I did also purchase a lot of the lower grade Materia before Dawntrail released in anticipation for 7.05 pentamolding. I'd personally say just focus on getting the grade 11s and the 12s, as there is still time to farm some of these through maximizing your spirit bonding buffs and extracting from your gear. I have explained this further in my previous video if you wish to check that out. And one of the most important things that I almost forgot to mention, which I did mention in my last video, is that as we are getting new master recipe books, in order to obtain these books you will need to trade in collectibles in order to get purple scripts and then purchase the master recipe books with the purple scripts. The best way to handle this is by stacking your retainers with collectible hand-ins that will give you purple scripts, and just bear in mind that we're probably going to need between 1,200 to 1,500 purple scripts per book. So whichever recipe you're going for, just make sure that you will have enough for all 8 of your crafters, or however many crafters that you're going to be getting the books for. Personally, for me, I've been using the alchemist and the culinarian purple recipe hand-ins, and I'll be making enough so that I can get all of the recipe books for all of my crafters as soon as I log in on patch day. So before we end the video, I've put together a little spreadsheet just to show the current cost of the items that I've been stacking up on. After 7.05 releases, I will keep this updated and have a look at what prices are and update according to what I sell and also use, just to have an indication of how the market is doing. There is still time to stock up on the materials that I've mentioned, so if you haven't already started, now will be a good time. If you have a lot of money to invest, then you can also just skip the crafting and gathering process and just pick a few of the items that I've mentioned and buy stacks of them. Personally, I didn't want to purchase anything and just decided to invest my time into gathering and collecting the items, as what's the point in having your gatherers and crafters maxed if you're not going going to use them. As mentioned before, I did buy crystals and I did buy some of the materials, and I also did purchase quite a lot of dyes, which again was before Dawntrail released, which is why I haven't really gone into details in this video. I wanted to keep this video pretty much just what I've been doing with my crafters and gatherers at max level in order to prepare for 7.05. Anyways, I hope this video helped, and if it did, please like and subscribe. Also, feel free to leave a comment on things that you have been stockpiling that you think may be useful for others. I hope you enjoyed this video, and I'll see you in the next one. Peace.